Hello, and thank you for listening to another episode of Tony Sports. My name is Dan Snyder, joined tonight by Dan O'Shea and Tony Casper. We've also got our friends, Dan Beebie and Chuckles. So we're going to have ourselves a good show tonight. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Pretty good.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. We have a special show tonight. It's our 4th of July spectacular. So
Woo!
We're going to do an American-themed show. But before we get into that tonight, I do have our pigskin poetry, which I think this is going to be one of my funnier ones. So without further ado, the state of Florida is a giant mess. Canes, Knowles, and Gators, but who's the best? What if I told you it's none of the three? It's the South Florida Bulls in gold and green. They have a guy whose name is Flowers. He runs real fast and throws with power. They may not lose a game. For the other three teams, I can't say the same. I can't deny the Gators could be good, but not in the same way South Florida could. Miami is weak and they lost their guy. It's like the Hurricanes are now just the eye. The Seminoles, now they have a debate, but they're losing to Bama right out of the gate. So who is the best? Just wait and see if any of these teams are in the CFP.
I don't think any of those teams are going to make the college football playoffs. Although I think South Florida gets a bad rap because they just play in a weaker conference, but they're a strong team.
Do they? That's the thing that really irritates me. The American Conference is the Big East without all the crappy teams.
Well, yeah. That being said, yeah. But I mean, South Florida. But no, the American Conference does not have the football talent and the strength there. I mean, UConn tried to create a rivalry, and they created, I swear to God, you can look this up, they created a trophy for their rivalry. South Florida didn't care enough to even pick up the trophy. They just left the field and left it there.
That is hilarious. But the argument that I'm going to make is last year there were 3 teams in the American Conference that were ranked, which are South Florida, they were ranked, Navy, Temple. This year they have another one, Toledo, that might be ranked. No, I'm sorry, not Toledo, Tulsa. Tulsa, the Golden Hurricane, which might be ranked. Last season, I think they went 10-3, which is a really good season.
Is Louisville in the ACC?
Louisville's in the ACC, yeah. Oh. So, it's really funny because the Big East got rid of all their crappy teams, Rutgers, Syracuse, Pitt, and somehow they're worse of a conference? I don't get it.
Yeah, the Big East still in general bothers me that it was even taken apart from a basketball sense, but yeah, it's the overwhelming talent of the Power Five, specifically the Big Ten, the SEC, to an extent the Pac-10 and 12.
Yeah.
It's hard to compete against that, especially where down south with SEC teams and even in the Midwest with Big Ten teams, football to those people is a religion. To people in the Northeast, it's a sport.
Yeah, I get that, but my question really quickly before we get on to what we're really going to talk about, if South Florida goes undefeated, is there really a reason you have to keep them out of the college football playoff unless Alabama, USC, Penn State, and Oklahoma State or Florida, Florida State and Alabama can't both go undefeated. They play each other first week of the season. So if 4 of those 5 teams go undefeated, well then yes, I see the argument for keeping South Florida out. But if you say have a 2-loss or even a 1-loss Oklahoma State and an undefeated South Florida, I think you got to logically think about putting South Florida in.
I think they can be in the debate if that's how it breaks down at the end. Yeah, I see them being in the debate. It's going to come down to their strength of schedule versus what you're looking at. But it's hard pressed to say that a team doesn't deserve to at least be in the college football playoff if they're undefeated.
Except for Western Michigan.
This is furthermore reason why I'm a big supporter of expanding it at the very least 8 teams.
16. Go 16 teams. That's what you need right there. Be not subjective. Take the top 16 teams. Just let them play.
Baby steps. I'll take 8 if the NCAA will get there because it needs to happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to kill that South Florida college football playoff talk. We'll save that for another week.
It's coming. It's coming close. College football's right around the corner.
I still think it would be very interesting if there ever is a situation where there's an undefeated team that doesn't make the playoffs.
They did. TCU went undefeated, and Ohio State got put in.
But with the strength and schedule too,
They didn't have the bowl game. That was the problem. They didn't. There was no Big 12 championship game, and Big 12 is going to be handcuffed by that, regardless. And if you have a championship game, what I agree with in what he was saying, I believe this is where you were going, is if you have a championship game for your conference and you go undefeated, if you get left off, will that further push the conversation to expanding to 8?
No, I don't think it will, because I know it's not a major conference, but Western Michigan went undefeated and had a conference championship, and still didn't get any higher than 12th in the country.
Yeah, but if it's a big... Okay, so Western Michigan, from where they came, I'm saying if it's a bigger school in maybe a bigger conference, does it spark the debate more?
Maybe.
I think when you have two teams, or teams in these situations, like the Ohio State and the TCU from before, that was more clear cut. I feel like we're gonna need a situation where it's not so clear cut, and that there is some discrepancy in the decision, and then that will change everything. We're gonna have to have some turmoil to get more teams.
If anything's gonna change this, I think it happened this year, and it's the argument of Michigan, USC, and Penn State all had a legitimate claim to be in the college football playoff.
And Wisconsin was all in that mix, screwing it all up, wasn't it? Was it Wisconsin that was in the
No.
mix of that?
No. Wisconsin...
There was a couple of Big Ten teams that threw wrenches in people's seasons, but it should... I mean, they all had legitimate claim, especially if you look towards the end of the year. You could have made the argument that there were 8 teams that deserved to play.
Absolutely.
For a chance at the title.
Absolutely. Penn, if just off the top of my head, the 4 that were in, Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama, and Washington, and then I would have had USC, Penn State, Oklahoma, Michigan as the other 4.
Yeah.
But
I mean, the argument could have been said that you put Western Michigan in place of Oklahoma.
I would have put
Oklahoma
Western.
was good, but Oklahoma already got beat by a team that was in that tournament that year.
They did. Yeah, so I would have been fine leaving them out. I would have been fine leaving out Washington, honestly.
I agree. I have my own feelings that Washington shouldn't have been there. But then again, the way Ohio State played last year, they shouldn't have been in there either.
Cough, cough, Rutgers. Scheduling Rutgers as your out-of-conference schedule.
America.
Yeah, America. We're going to talk about America. We're going to go through and talk about our favorite American Olympians. Now, this is a pretty loose interpretation. They have to have been an Olympian of some kind, whether it's Winter Olympics, Summer Olympics, Special Olympics, Junior Olympics, does not matter. If they represented the United States of America as an Olympian of some kind, we will accept it. All right? You guys ready to get this 4th of July spectacular off?
Yep, let's do it.
All right, I'll start the show. Number 5, I have a sport that I got into simply because of the Olympics. My number 5, and that is men's indoor volleyball. Now, the 2008 men's indoor volleyball team in particular, they're the ones that got me into, like I said, into volleyball. And they won gold, and they had a bunch of players from Penn State. So that right there is just 3 reasons why I have the 2008 men's volleyball team as my number 5 team. Penn State, which you guys know I love.
Of course.
I got me into volleyball in general, and they won gold. Go America.
Right, Go America.
All right, so number 5 is going to be one that I'm pretty sure nobody's really heard of, but his name is Eddie Egan. He is the only Olympic representative from the United States. Now, this has happened 4 times in world history, but the only one from the United States to win a gold medal as a light heavyweight boxer in the Summer Olympics. And then, actually, he won a gold medal as a member of the 4-man U.S. bobsled team at the Winter Olympics as well. So he's the only Olympic athlete from the United States to win gold medals in both the summer and winter games.
Very impressive.
That is extremely impressive. So, Chuckles, we're going to get on to you now, number 5.
I have Jason Lezak. He was the anchor in the 4x1 2008 Beijing swimming freestyle. 4x1 freestyle that secured Michael.
Saved Michael Phelps. Yeah,
his eighth medal, and that was probably. I was actually living with Tony in Albany. And we were watching that, and that was probably the most thrilling thing I had ever seen on television at that time.
It certainly was one of the most exciting things.
They were going in. I still remember they were probably
the French guy. What's his name?
The French were already in the water, and they were behind him. And Lezak had to catch him back up, and he
did. Oh
did.
man, did
coming.
he?
He was closing the gap.
Alan Bernard. That was his name. Yeah. Alan Bernard. Yep.
That was probably, and be it that he was in a 4x1 freestyle relay, you wouldn't necessarily say it was him or his name would stand out as saving that, but to me, that was a very crucial performance by an Olympic athlete.
Which I think I remember being kind of controversial because up until that point, Michael Phelps was always the anchor.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you're right. I do remember that. I just remember because having it mentioned, I still remember that moment sitting there, and there's something about the Olympics that brings that out of you, where you're like yelling at your television, where like I can guarantee you, every other 3 years, I'm not yelling at my TV about swimming.
Or like you're right, and I remember back in 2008. Getting up at like 5 a.m. to watch the Olympics.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? That's not a point. I don't even know fencing. I know that's not a point.
But I still think that was one of the only like vivid memories I had of like almost screaming at the TV, not just because you were cheering for him, but you were like willing him to like pass this Frenchman to win. It was
a
awesome.
come from behind. It was a great moment. That was
Sorry,
a good choice.
Sorry, Alan Bernard. I have a lot of respect for you, except the fact that you're French and your name has an I in it. Alain. That's not Alan. Whatever.
Elliot.
Gonzalez. All right.
He was a swimmer too.
Yeah, I mean, he was more of a rafter, but whatever.
Sailor.
They still have boating in the Olympics, right? No.
Is that all you've got for Jason Lezak?
Yeah, for him, that was for me. That was stood out.
All right, Dan O'Shea.
All right, you guys have been starting off pretty obscurely. I'm going with Carl Lewis at number 5, 9-time gold winner.
Crazy dresser.
Yes, crazy dresser, but in the 100-meter, 200-meter, and long jump, his world record in the indoor long jump has stood since 84, and those 9 golds were between 84 and 96.
I'm pretty sure his world record was broken by Byron Jones at the NFL Combine.
Yeah, but it wasn't broken
Right,
at the
that may be a
Olympics.
world record. It's not an Olympic record. Because the Olympic record is different
That's
than the
all
world
the
record.
pressure, yeah. Much more pressure than the Combine.
Yeah, but he broke it.
The world's not watching.
A lot of people watch the Combine.
Not as many as the Olympics.
Well, it's because there's nothing else on it. 10 o'clock at night when you're looking for sports.
I guess that's true.
All right.
West Coast baseball, maybe. But
Yeah, no, well, not at that time. No, because it's before April. It's before the draft.
World Baseball Classic.
Maybe.
Never
No
know.
one watches that.
I do.
Puerto Rico had a parade for second place.
Well, I mean, that's any excuse they have to pass out some green, they'll take.
Yeah, right.
All right, so is that all? Is that, you have more about Carl?
That's good enough.
I think
he's an actor or something now.
His Bengal jacket is like the greatest. He's like the Russell Westbrook of the Olympics.
Yeah.
And he ran for office, but failed in like 2000.
It's the only thing he couldn't successfully run at.
Yeah.
Growing up watching him run was pretty amazing, but at the same time, watching him sing the national anthem and then asking to get a redo was pretty funny too.
I mean, I gotta say, if we were just doing our favorite Olympians when it comes to running, Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, "Oh, I hate you." No, I don't. I love you.
Yeah. The man looks behind him as he's running to see where people are. Like, you know you're good at that point. Really.